I told you specifically not to release those records. Now look what's happening. This is entirely on you.
They laughed, while the patient bled. The words cut sharper than the smell of antiseptic hanging thick in the emergency wing. A man in a pressed coat shook his head, voice loud enough to echo off the pale walls. He said she was wasting time. He said she was in the way. He said she should know her place. The quiet black nurse stood still, her posture straight, her hands calm, her eyes lowered, not in fear but in control. Somewhere above the hospital roof, blades were already cutting through the sky. She had learned long ago that silence could be armor. Her name was Naomi Carter. She had worked this hospital night shift for 11 years. Her shoes were worn soft from miles of walking these halls. Her hands carried the warmth of countless lives she had steadied. Her face held lines earned not from age but from weight. Weight of things seen and never spoken. Tonight, she was assigned to a trauma room that would not stop filling with tension. A young man lay unconscious, bruised and broken, brought in with no papers and no answers. The chart said unknown. The room said urgent. The clock said time was running out. When Naomi spoke, she spoke softly. She said the patient's breathing was uneven. She said the pulse was wrong. She said something deeper was happening. The men in authority barely looked at her. One of them scoffed and said she was imagining things. Another rolled his eyes and told her to step back. The bystanders did nothing. The interns stayed quiet. The hallway held its breath. Naomi stepped back just as asked, but she did not step away. She stood near the wall, hands folded, watching every rise and fall of the patient's chest. She felt a familiar tightening in her chest, a warning she had learned to trust long before this hospital ever hired her. Her calm was not weakness. It was training. Years ago, long before the white walls and buzzing lights, Naomi Carter wore a different uniform, one that smelled of salt and fuel, one that fit tight across her shoulders and reminded her every day that mistakes cost lives. She had served as a Navy medic attached to special operations units. She learned to stop bleeding in the dark. She learned to read a body the way others read words. She learned that silence saved lives when noise invited danger. She still remembered her first deployment. The heat that wrapped around her like a wet blanket, the sand that found its way into everything, the way the air tasted before a mission. She remembered kneeling beside men who trusted her without question. Men who ran toward danger while the world slept. She remembered one in particular. His name was Daniel Hayes, a quiet operator, calm eyes, a crooked smile he rarely used. He called her Doc even though she told him her name every time. He trusted her hands more than his own heartbeat. They had trained together, laughed together, and survived things that never made the news. Until the night everything changed. An explosion ripped through the darkness. The smell of smoke and metal filled her lungs. Daniel was down. She reached him fast, hands moving on instinct, mind sharp, despite the chaos. He looked at her, eyes steady even as pain tried to claim him. He told her not to rush. He told her to breathe. She stopped the bleeding. She kept him alive long enough for extraction. He lived. Others did not. After that tour, Naomi left the service quietly. No parade, no speeches, just a folded uniform and memories she learned to carry without letting them show. The hospital became her new battlefield. Less noise, different stakes. Same rule, stay calm, stay ready. Back in the trauma room, the young man's condition shifted. His breathing hitched. His heart rate dropped. Naomi saw it before the monitor screamed. She stepped forward, voice low, but firm, saying something was wrong. The man in the pressed coat snapped at her again. He told her to stop interrupting. He told her she was just a nurse. The word just hung in the air. She nodded once and stepped back again. Her jaw tightened. Her eyes stayed locked on the patient. She reached into her pocket and touched a small metal tag she always carried. No name. Just a symbol. A reminder of who she was when things went bad. Minutes stretched. The patient's body betrayed him. The room erupted into rushed movement and raised voices. Orders flew. Confusion followed. Naomi moved only when needed, placing tools, steadying hands, offering help that went unnoticed. Then it happened. A sound rolled through the building. Not loud enough to be obvious at first, just a deep vibration felt more than heard. The windows trembled. The lights flickered. Heads turned. Outside, a Navy helicopter descended onto the hospital landing pad. Its presence impossible to ignore. The hallway went silent. Men in uniform moved with purpose, boots hitting concrete in steady rhythm. Their faces were hard, focused. They did not slow. They did not ask permission. They asked one question, and only one. Where is the missing SEAL? The room froze. The man in the pressed coat stammered. He said they had an unknown patient. He said they were doing their best. The lead officer's eyes scanned the room and stopped on Naomi. He nodded once. Respect passed between them without words. That's her, he said. That's the medic. Every head turned. Naomi felt the weight of their stares but did not flinch. She stepped forward, calm as ever, and confirmed the identity she already knew. The young man on the bed was Daniel Hayes, older now, scarred, still fighting. The officers moved fast, bringing equipment, issuing orders that cut through the confusion like clean lines. They listened when Naomi spoke. They adjusted when she pointed. The room shifted around her, power flowing back to where it belonged. The man in the pressed coat shrank into silence. Daniel stabilized. The crisis eased. The monitor steadied. Breath returned to a rhythm that promised life. As the helicopter waited, the officers prepared to move him. Before they did, the lead officer turned to Naomi and spoke words that would echo long after the night. And did some heroes don't raise their voice? They raised the standard. No one laughed now. In the hallway, staff stood aside as the team passed. Heads bowed. Hands stilled. Respect filled the space where mockery once lived. Naomi watched them go, heart steady, hands calm. She did not smile. She did not seek thanks. She returned to her work just as she always did. Later, when the night slowed and the halls quieted, a young intern approached her. His voice shook as he spoke. He said he was sorry. He said he had learned something tonight. Naomi met his eyes and nodded once. She did not need words to be heard by morning. The story spread, not as gossip, but as lesson, about silence, about respect, about the battles people fight without uniforms or applause. Naomi finished her shift as the sun rose, light spilling through hospital windows. She stepped outside and breathed in the cool air. Somewhere far away, a helicopter carried a life she had helped save. Somewhere even farther, memories stirred and settled. She walked to her car, tired but whole, because true strength does not demand attention. It arrives exactly when it is needed, and sometimes the quietest person in the room carries the loudest truth. If this story moved you, share where you're watching from. Tell us what silent strength means to you, and subscribe for more stories that honor the heroes who never asked to be seen. See,